Hi everyone, how are you? Monica Shimonik here with Moms Unshackled. And if you're not familiar with my work, I help moms that are in family court develop healing and empowerment systems so that they can get through this whole ordeal being the mama bear that they are. Okay, I'm just keeping an eye on my girl. Okay, she's safe. So this live stream today is about, Sadie, you gotta stay so I can see you, okay? This live stream today is about, oh look, the leaves are falling. Is that pretty? We are going to be talking about where are you in your parental alienation ordeal? Are you in the messy middle or have you hit your rock bottom with your child? What does that mean? So messy middle, oftentimes parents who have reached rock bottom have first been in the messy middle territory. That is when you're kind of getting into that alienation vortex where your child is like kind of starting to change their attitude towards you. They're still coming to see you, but things are just different. There's a little bit of a disconnect, and they don't really see you as the authority figure that you are. They don't really have the same amount of respect for you. They start to parrot the other parent, and you're kind of like dealing with this, like, oh my God, my kid's changing. And they will often start skipping their time with you. So they'll come every once in a while, but then they'll give up their time with you routinely and predictably. So that can go on for a few months. In my situation with our oldest, it was about 4 months, maybe 3 or 4 months, where it was in that messy middle. And then we became fully alienated from him in June of 2015. And our oldest son has not met his two sisters still, and our daughters are 3 and 1. So we do have an older son who's 18 now. He has never met his sisters. So that is the full. We're now in the full-blown alienation territory. We have hit the rock bottom with our oldest, and so messy middle can be an extremely stressful time for parents. And Sadie, don't do that, please. So messy middle can be a very, very treacherous time for parents, and a lot of times this territory is overlooked. You know, we kind of like more sympathize with the parents who are completely alienated. So the messy middle keeps you in anxiety, and it keeps you chasing the family court loop for solutions. You know, then you get desperate, right? Because you know that you're kind of getting into that vortex. So you're going to try to do anything to save that relationship. You know, it's like the house is on fire. You start throwing your valuables out the window. You know, like, oh my God, I have 2 minutes to get out of this house. You know, and you start like throwing all your aunt's jewelry out the window to save whatever you can. And that's desperate. You know, you're like, and then you're in these decisions like, well, do I go down the stairs or do I jump out the window and break my arm, or do I risk it and go down the stairs and get burns? And you have so little time. So you gotta stay here, Levy, okay? And you have and you don't know when that trigger is going to be pulled. You don't know, and you're in a situation where you're like, is this the last time I'm going to see my child? You know, Christmas is next month. Am I going to see my child at Christmas? And like, you start to get panicky, and you start to get desperate, and so desperate energy is very, very draining. And so what you do to try to salvage this is you start chasing, you know, the unicorn. All right, in family court, I call that the unicorn because people who've been abused in the family court for many, many years, we all do this. This is a natural process. If you're in this phase, it's normal. It's okay. But you may right now be in a phase where you're chasing the family court structure to solve the problems. Okay, and that's why I call it the unicorn, because these are the same people who took your child away from you in the first place, or these are the same people who ruthlessly punished you and abused you for a very extreme amount of time illegally, and you're learning about the fraud. You know, you're going on Facebook, you're learning about what the family courts are really like. And so when you're in this messy middle, you are chasing a corrupt and you're chasing a corrupt and unsustainable structure to fix the problems that they helped create. It's like robbers break into your home and they destroy your property. You still have a house, but it's like all messed up. And then you want to hire those robbers as contractors to fix the structures that they damaged. And so there is a little bit of, there's a lot of distrust and stress, more desperation, more stress, you know, So you're trying to salvage this relationship, and you're trying to like get into the court's good graces. You're trying to like jump through all the hoops and make them like you, and so that's also desperate, draining energy. So and also, you know, with the family court, I always say when you enter family court to solve problems, which again, it's our only option, right? We have no other options. We have to do this, right? The workshop is going to get into like how that's not necessarily true. You can do other things. So other things that are way more empowering. And I can't tell if my baby's crying or laughing. Okay, she's laughing. Woo, win. So yes, with the workshop, you are exploring a different opportunity to reach out to your children, but it's not using that desperate, draining energy. It's using a better structure. It's using a creative foundation of solutions. Okay, so we'll get into that in a minute. But anyway, when you go to the family court to solve problems, you are positioned at the bottom of the pecking order. Everybody in family court is more important than you are. I mean, even your own child is more important than you are in family court. Like, your 14-year-old child's opinions is more important than the parent who raised that 14-year-old child. So the 45-year-old parent means nothing, and the 14-year-old child is elevated beyond a healthy level that they should be. You know, kids are not adults, so we need to stop treating them like adults in the court. But anyway. So yeah, you're at the bottom of the pecking order. Everybody's more important than you. The GAL is more important than you. The therapist, your child's teacher, your child's principal, your neighbor's dog, your neighbor's dog's cat. You know, everybody's more important than you in the family court when you go there to address issues. Okay, and so you probably know that that's not workable. It's not sustainable. It's like a snake eating its own tail, right? And so that's the messy middle. So this workshop could help you if you're in the messy middle, because the workshop will feed your foundation so that when you do go to court to try to solve these solutions, and I do think you should go to court. If you follow me on Facebook, you might be like, I say things like abolish family law. I do think you should go to court. I go to court still. I'm not leaving the court system. I'm going to continue to go to court to draw my line in the sand and stake my claim and let the state know, let the government know, you don't get to take my child away from me and me not show up and be a gigantic pain in the ass about it. Okay, so that's me. That's more me just like embracing my own commitment to this cause. Okay, I have long let go of what the outcome is going to be. We get into those things in the workshop. You know, there's commitment and then there's attachment, and you got to keep your commitment separate from your attachment. Okay. Patricia's watching. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Patricia, right? Commitment and attachment, those have to be as separate as possible. And those things they want to link into each other. You got to but we get into that in my workshop. Anyway, so yes, messy middle. It is messy. It's painful. It's treacherous, okay? And give yourself permission to hate it and make it suck, okay? Don't let people tell you, oh, your child will come around when they're ready. You know, no. You have to allow yourself to hate it and grieve and it's okay for it to suck, okay? So there is one positive thing about being in the messy middle, and that is that you do have contact with your kids. You know, if your child laughs at one of your jokes or something, or says I love you too, you know, even though you're being treated like crap a lot of the time, like you'll get those little nuggets of love, and that I know is what is fueling your tank, and that can keep you going, and that is a tremendous benefit as opposed to being at the rock bottom phase, which is what we're going to talk about right now. What's rock bottom? Rock bottom is like your child has no contact with you. Your child is blocking you on social media, not answering calls, not acknowledging that you sent them a birthday card, parroting the other parent, believing the other parent, sending hateful messages to you, things of that nature. That is when you have officially hit your rock bottom, where you're like, wow, hi, Catherine. You're there's no going back at that point. Like, you feel like, oh gosh, this is the point of no return. It's not going to get better. And you might be in that point where you know that you can't go back to the court for anything. Maybe the court told you not to come back. You know, my husband was told not to come back to court. Don't come back. Here you go. and just go home and just sit in it and deal with it. You're not allowed to come back, which is, by the way, against the law, but that's a whole nother live stream. So maybe you guys are at the point where you're like, I'm not doing family court anymore. So the benefit to rock bottom, there's a lot of benefits to rock bottom. There's a coach, Ashley Stahl, Stahl. She's actually really a good coach. She once said in a podcast that she had, and I was listening to it and I was blown away. This girl's like 32. Like, she's brilliant. Like, I'm like, when I was 32, I was like, maxing out credit cards to pay attorneys. But she said, do not ever deny anybody their rock bottom. I was freaking blown away when I heard that. And that's so powerful, because when you're in the alienation, when you are at the rock bottom of alienation, you have officially, you're at the bottom. You're at the bottom of the vortex. You have sunk into the swamp and you hit the bottom and you're just sitting at the bottom of the swamp. The benefit to rock bottom is rock bottom can stimulate an awakening. Sadie, you have to stay here where I can see you. Okay? It can stimulate creativity. It can open up your heart space to like solutions, and now what? Because you're no longer throwing all your energy and your money and your time into the court system. Okay, maybe the therapist completed their report, said you have to lose your child, blah blah blah. Maybe the judge came out with final orders and you decided you're not going to appeal. So that is also like a form of rock bottom, is like the court slams their doors on you. You can't go back and fix it because you don't have the change in circumstances, because your child is still avoiding you. So there's no mechanism in which you could fix it by chasing the unicorns in court, right? And so again, hitting rock bottom, you can open up yourself to surrender. Okay? Surrender is healing. Surrender is beautiful work. Okay? It allows the mechanisms to apply where you could start healing yourself and rebuilding. Okay? Now, if you are in this rock bottom phase, you haven't had contact with your child in a year, 2 years, 4 months, whatever, you can join this workshop and learn how to use those creative mechanisms, because those are being activated right now. Whether you agree with it or not, you might be in an extremely dark void. Okay, you probably are. But in that void, in that in that space where you're like, just like, holy crap, my kid's gone, what's the point, right? Like, there's so little. You might be like, there's no possibility here. There's no room for anything. It's just me at the bottom of the swamp, the bottom of the vortex. And so there's a place in you that wants to be creative. There's a place in you that wants to get into that surrender territory. Okay. Yes, Patricia, surrender is so hard. I had to update Moms Unshackled like a few months ago, because I just added surrender into my program like very recently, even though my program was around for a long time. I left surrender out of my program because I couldn't figure it out. I was like, I'm not going to surrender. That's giving up. That's walking away. I'm not walking away from my kid. It is not the same thing. Okay? Surrender and giving up, two different things. Again, pull apart these domains. These are two different things. A lot of us think that we're here with surrender and giving up and walking away, that it's all the same thing. And if you go into these parental alienation, support groups, they're going to be like, don't walk away. Don't walk away. You got to keep fighting. No, you can surrender and still be completely committed to the whole thing. We get into all that in my workshop. It's beautiful work. I promise you, surrender takes forever. It can be painful. It can take forever. It took forever for me, but it could be quick for you. Who knows? Because transformation doesn't follow like linear. It doesn't follow like a linear path all the time. You can have something called popping. Okay, that's like another term, popping, where it just happens all of a sudden. So anyway, I'm getting off on like 100 tangents. So the other thing about hitting this rock bottom is that you can get into legacy work with your rock bottom. Okay, listen, this is so beautiful. There's a movie called The Patriot. I'm just watching my daughter here. Sadie, come back, baby. There's a movie called The Patriot. Mel Gibson, Heath Ledger, and some other people. I don't know. I watched this movie 20 years ago, and there was a kid who was like, okay, so Mel Gibson had like 7 kids. The first kid went off to war. That was Heath Ledger. The second kid was like 14, and this kid wanted to go to war so bad. He was asking his dad, Dad, when, when, when? It was so powerful. It was, literally, it's like such a beautiful moment in the movie. The kid is like walking up to Mel Gibson, and he's like, polishing his sword, trying on his armor. And he's like, Dad, when? When? He wanted to go to war. He wanted to fight. So beautiful. But he knew that people were getting killed in war. He knew that people were bloody and missing and dying and stuff. And this kid still wanted to go to war. So I was like, so you could be like, why would any kid want to sign up for something like that? That was his heart space opening up, his legacy work. Like, that was him being like, I want to make my mark in the world. Even though it's messy and ugly, and I might die. Actually, he did die. Ooh, sorry, I didn't mean to give it away. So anyway, that's what we do in family court. Is we are afraid to take that step. We want to stay stuck and wait for the unicorns. We want to wait for the right evaluator. We want to fly therapists in from California to testify. We had a dad in Connecticut who paid something like $80,000. Jerry Mastrangelo paid. He ran for office, by the way. He's a super huge advocate. Jerry Mastrangelo paid a lot of money to a professional to sit up on the stand and talk about parental alienation. Now, in my opinion, I would not spend 10 cents on anybody to talk about why my child should be with me. Okay, I'm not, because that's an empirical truth. Children should be with their parents, period. I don't need to pay somebody to speak the truth. That's like paying someone to say that the sky is blue. All right. But that's what he chose to do. That's his journey. I'm not going to deny people their mechanisms. But when we don't plunge forward into that surrender, and we don't plunge into that creativity and that like legacy work, we get stuck into that. Let me just throw money at the unicorns in court, and hope. And the thing is, I do think you should do that. I don't think you should pay people to do this, but I think you should go to court and still demand that they treat you with respect and give you the constitutional, give you back your constitutional rights and maintain and uphold your constitutional rights. I'm not a fan of chasing and blowing money on these experts to say what is already true. But the thing is, like, again, to reiterate, to not get into that surrender, you are staying in that again, you're chasing. It's energy that is very depleting and draining. You're becoming dependent on other people to fix the problems. You're spending money on other people to fix the problems. So it's a disempowered frame of mind. The loop, Patricia. I call it the loop all the time. The legacy work is beautiful work. The workshop, 90% of my workshop is all about legacy work. But you can use your legacy work to be a magnet for your child, because guess what we have? We have a tool that we didn't have 20 years ago. When parents were alienated 20 years ago, very little that they could do. What do we have now that we didn't have 20 years ago? We have the internet. There is no law that says you can't use the internet to reach out to your child. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. I have a no contact order. My ex will freak out. My ex will file a motion if I use the internet to contact my kid. I'm blocked on social media. That's not what I'm talking about. You have to get into the workshop. There are 150 ways to reach out to your child using the internet. Maybe not 150 ways, but there's a lot. Okay, my workshop covers a few. There's way more. If you get into the workshop, you're going to have access to this forever. 5 years, you can access, unless the internet gets shut down, you're going to have access to it. So I encourage you to enroll in this workshop. We have 3 days left to enroll. It's a $97 workshop, and the link is in the description. But if you have any questions about the workshop, there is a video on all that inside my link. But you could also private message me. I've had a bunch of parents reach out to me in the past few days. And if you already enrolled in the workshop, I'm going to be doing a live stream tomorrow on how you can prepare for the workshop. So, yes, I appreciate you coming on. Let's see if anyone asks any questions here. Yes. Oh my gosh, Darlene, The Dark Night of the Soul is such great work. It really is. Trevor Arley, I don't know how to say his name. He gets all into that stuff, and I think maybe Eckhart Tolle does as well. So yeah. Okay. Let's see what kind of questions we have. You're probably going to see my daughter in my mirror here. Thank you so much for your comments, Patricia and Darlene. Absolutely. Yeah, so somebody else just said something. Yeah, stay magically committed. Commitment is huge. Commitment is great, empowering work, and that feeds your foundation. It's your backbone. It's your energy source in this ordeal. So the energy source is not the therapists and the evaluators and the GALs. Those are not your energy source. Yeah, so this is big stuff, big stuff. And the workshop, again, is Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. It's from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. It's a live workshop. You just need an internet connection. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And I so appreciate you coming on today. Thank you so much.